Welcome, this is Jim, host of the Faith Influencer podcast, where we're going to dive into discussions on faith's role in everyday life, from navigating blended families to overcoming challenges. I'm a husband, a father, a Bible teacher, an advocate for applying faith to everyday life. So tune in as I share personal stories, valuable insights, and practical wisdom. Welcome back to Faith Influencer. This is Jim Cunningham. Okay. We're going off script a little bit now. This is a little out there. I'm usually taking up for all of the wives and the women out there when it comes to marriage and remarriage and divorce and blended families. But for the sake of the guys, this is going to be a little different, and I'm going to talk to you guys in particular. So I'm going to have to give you a couple of precautionaries to all the ladies before I get started. Okay, so if you comment different than what I'm about to tell you, I know you're not listening. Here's what I want you to say. I know this is not every lady. I know that all of you aren't going to be like what I'm about to describe. Okay, so if this is not you, don't go off on me. I'm not saying this is every lady. But it's a lot of ladies because I oftentimes work in the area of marriage and divorce. Here is how I want to set this up. How do you protect yourself, guys, from a revengeful, mean, vindictive wife or ex-wife? What do you do? How do you handle if that's the person that you were married to, that you're going through a divorce? How do you handle that? How do you handle that she is so mad now and so vindictive that she is going to do everything she can to make your life miserable? Well, I've seen this often, and I've seen guys be stupid, and so I want to help you through this. Now, I realize this is Faith Influencer, and that means this is a Christian podcast. And what I'm about to say to you, some of it doesn't sound too Christian, but we're being very realistic here. So let's talk about the stuff that we agree on. So when you're going through a divorce and you have children together, here's what normally happens. Normally, you say, okay, we're going to have 50-50 custody. You're going to make these kinds of arrangements. Roughly speaking, your children are going to spend equal time with each parent. That's the ideal. That's what most courts want to happen. That's the easiest way to go. It's even by child psychologists, it's considered the most positive way that a divorce can end up as it relates to the children, is that the parents co-parent effectively. Now, that's the ideal. If you've gone through this or are going through it, I hope that's the scenario that you have. But here's what I know. I know that much of the time, that's not the case. So just know that children are going to benefit from maintaining a healthy relationship with both parents. By the way, let me put a little parenthesis in here. If you're trying to keep your child away from seeing the other parent because you're being vindictive, I just want you to know you're simply thinking about yourself, not about the children, because we know from child psychologists, et cetera, that it is more healthy for a child to have a relationship with both parents. We just know that's true. Now, that doesn't always happen, and both parents don't always want that. There may be a father who is off doing his own thing when he has a divorce, or there may be a mother who now she's been set free from marriage. She doesn't want to be bothered by the kids. And so she's off doing her thing, and the dad has the custody most of the time. We know that happens, but ideally 50-50 is what you want. Now for the rest of us, for the rest of you who wish that were your case, you have a wife who is being vindictive, and she's trying to control all of the arrangements. What does that look like? Well, let's say, putting aside the Christian principles that we wish were in place, that it's more stable for the kids if you have a nurturing environment, If you don't, let me speak to those of you who are struggling with this. And let me especially speak if you're a lady and this is you and you're trying to leverage the kids. Here's what is the truth. A woman who has been scorned, not everybody knows what that scorned means. A woman who feels like she's been wronged by her man can become one of the most mean people on this planet. She can come up with the ways, if she has been scorned, if she's been done wrong in her mind, she can come up with more ways to make your life miserable than you can imagine. And here you are, and remember in this podcast, I'm taking the man's side, okay? I'm looking at it from your point of view. Here you are, sir, and you're just trying to navigate this world where you have a mean wife who's trying to take everything away from you. You're just trying to make it through. As a matter of fact, there are some of you men who are listening who've been through this, and you would say to me this, you would say, I had no idea after all these years of marriage that my wife, who's now my ex-wife or going to be my ex-wife, I had no idea that she could be this mean. I had no idea that she could come up with all of these ways to hurt me. Some of you are going through that right now. Well, here's what a wife who's being vindictive and who feels like she's being wronged, or she's trying to, because of pride, save face so people won't think bad of her. She will use the children as leverage to get to you. Now, I can hardly think of anything that's more disappointing and mean than taking the children and using them as leverage to get to an ex-husband. I mean, that's about as low as you can go, to use your children as a way to get to your ex-spouse. But it's a common occurrence. Why? Because when someone has this vindictive spirit, they're not thinking about anyone else. They're not thinking about their children. They're not thinking about anything but themselves. So they want to hurt their spouse. Now, here's what they're going to say. They're going to say, well, I've been hurt. And then what we know is someone who's been hurt wants to hurt back. So if she feels like she's been hurt, she's going to want to hurt back. She's going to do whatever she can to make you bleed. She wants you to bleed. She wants you to suffer. And then even to this point, now let me say something controversial, okay? And this is where you can throw it in the comments and say that was stupid or I don't agree with you or whatever. You do that. But let me say this. Sometimes maybe you were unfaithful. Maybe you were the guy who cheated on your wife and now she's going to do everything in the world to make your life miserable because you cheated. Well, okay, so she's hurt. I'm not discounting that. But using the children as leverage because she's hurt still is not right. Now, here's the controversial statement, and I'm curious to see what your comments are going to say. Here it is. And a wife who feels scorned, you're especially not going to like what I'm about to say. Just because your spouse was unfaithful doesn't mean they're a bad parent. I'm pausing for effect. Do you agree or disagree? I want to say it again. Just because your spouse cheated on you doesn't mean that disqualifies them as being a good dad. Doesn't mean that. Maybe they suck as a spouse, as a husband. Maybe there's something in them. They're not a one-woman man, but they can still love their children. A vengeful wife, and let's say you were cheated on, still has no right to leverage your kids against your husband, even in that scenario. You can't use your kids against your husband. Now, let me tell you what psychologists say. Because you're saying, oh no, this is what a vengeful wife says. She says, oh no, my husband cheated on me. That makes him a bad husband. That makes him a bad father. That makes him a bad person. Well, you're speaking out of anger, but that's not true. That is not true. Here's what is true. And we know this has been backed up by studies over and over and over and over again. Here's what is true. What is true is that your children who won are very forgiving, because the vengeful wife, you know what she's going to do? Sir, you know what she's going to do? She's going to take your children aside and say, well, daddy and mommy are getting divorced because your daddy cheated on me. That's what she's going to do. She wants them to know that it's your fault and you cheated. She wants to lay all that out to save face for herself. That's vindictive. What you're not thinking about is that what the kids need to hear. Is that good for the kids? But okay, you're going down this route. What we know is that a child would rather, let's say he's not even a great parent, but studies show a child would rather be with their parent, even if their parent is not a good parent, as opposed to not seeing that parent. Even if they're not a good parent, they still want to see them. They still love them. They still want to spend time with them. So you're not doing anything if you're a vindictive wife. You're not doing anything except hurting your kids greatly if you try to keep them away, because you're going to say they're not a great parent. Well, your kids want to see them. Even if they cheated on you, your kids still love their dad and they want to spend time with him. So they can still be a great parent. As a matter of fact, I know some cases like that where they are actually super parents and terrible spouses. Now, here's the problem, guys, that you're going to run into. You're going to run into a problem because the court system isn't going to be on your side. You're going to run into a problem because if you're sitting before a judge and everything's being laid out, almost always he's going to favor the wife. It's just so. It's not right. Who agrees with that? Well, the vengeful wife agrees with that. But the truth is that it's not fair at all for the guys. Guy, you're going to get the bad end of that deal. You're going to be the one who's like, wait a minute. And the judge is going to favor the wife. So that's the part historically that's going to happen to you as a husband and as a man. The court's not going to be on your side. So I want to give you some things on how to protect yourself. Let me run through these quickly. Here's where guys are stupid. You're going to want to negotiate with your wife. Obviously, you're going to want to negotiate time with your kids, and she's being vengeful. She's trying to take everything away from you. She wants all of your 401k. She wants the best car. She wants you to pay for the house while she lives in it after you get a divorce. She wants to do all of this stuff because she's being vindictive. So you're in these negotiations. Here's the first mistake that guys make, okay? And this is just being practical, is that you verbally sit down with her or over the phone, you have all of these negotiations. That's your first mistake. What am I saying? If you guys are going to discuss, this is going to be split with this, and I'm going to spend time here and do that, you do it in writing. You don't do it over the phone. You don't sit down together and verbally have all of these conversations. The only way you're going to protect yourself in a story like this is if you put it all down on paper, agree to it on paper, write it on paper, and both of you sign it. Because you know what she's going to do? She's going to say she didn't say that. She's going to tell the judge, I never said that. I never said he could spend that much time with the kids. I never said that he could have that and I could have that. She's going to change her mind. She's going to lie about it, this vindictive wife. She's going to do whatever she can to get to you. So you can't trust her. In this scenario, you can't trust her. If you're going to negotiate things, then the negotiations should be written out and signed and dated by both of you. Now, that's one. Here's the other thing. I don't even like talking about this stuff, but we're talking about realism today. Here's the other thing. The other thing is that you're going to have to assume that any and all of your conversations, she's going to tell other people. It's going to be shared with other people. Probably you should assume this. If you're on the phone, and this is where guys make mistakes, you're on the phone, she's going to try to trip you and make you angry and make you say stuff that doesn't sound good or that you really later are going to regret saying, you should assume that when you're having conversations with your vindictive wife and you're trying to negotiate, you should assume that she's recording every conversation you have, because that's what happens. She knows how to push your buttons, and she's going to try to make you angry. And what you don't know is this is being recorded and it will be played in court. And the judge is going to hear it, and she's going to say, see, judge, he has such a bad temper and he's so quick to get angry, and this isn't good for our kids. I don't want him seeing our kids. That's what a vindictive wife will do. She will go to those lengths to take everything away from you. So don't negotiate unless it's written down and signed. And if you have a witness, that's even better. 2, assume that she is recording every conversation that you have because she's looking for stuff to hold against you. And then, and this is the dumbest thing, and this is why I think some guys just are so naive, don't say stuff on social media. As a matter of fact, when you're going through a divorce, get off of social media. Don't try to get people's sympathy. Don't say things about your spouse. Don't say stupid stuff that can be taken one way or the other. Just get off social media while you're going through this, because it will be used against you, and it happens all the time. Now, let me give you this one. This is knowing your rights. Okay, I'm talking to the guys today. This is knowing your rights. So here's a case that I worked with, and the wife was taking the child to a medical professional, psychological issues going through a divorce. The wife decided she's going to take the child to a medical professional to treat the children for the trauma of going through a divorce. Now, here's what a vindictive wife is going to do. She's going to use that against you. She's going to come back and she's going to say that I took the child to counseling, to a mental professional, and she's going to conjure up all of these issues the child is now having caused by you. Now, this is what I want you to know. I want you to know that when you have a vindictive wife like that, you have rights. And this is what I want you to make sure you do. You make sure you have full access to every treatment the child has gone through, to all of the treatment notes that have been written out, to any treatment plan that a psychologist, a child psychologist or psychiatrist, any treatment plan that has been written out, all the conversations. You as the parent have the right to that. So don't be naive and think that all of those conversations are innocent, even though they're being held with a professional. You have rights to those conversations. You be sure that you get access to all of that. They can't keep you from that. So here's one. Let me give you another one. Here's one that shocked the husband beyond ill repair almost. I literally was sitting in their living room when we were going through counseling, and it was angry. It was angry. And he pulled out the surprise. He didn't tell me he was going to do this, but we're sitting there going through this counseling. I felt in my heart, there's no hope for them. And that's not often that I feel that way, but boy, I felt it in this case. And it turned out to be true, unfortunately. But we're sitting there going through this, and it's like he had in his back pocket something he was going to pull out to just shut her up. She was playing both sides, and this is what he pulled out. He pulled out, not out of his pocket literally, but he had a box. He pulled out the box, and he pulled out a couple of packages, and he held them up, and he looked at her, and I'm leaning in because I want to know what he's got. And this is what he found. He found in the attic, his attic, a box of trackers that she had been putting on his car, underneath his car, tracking everywhere he went. Everywhere he went. How can she use that against him? Well, she started claiming, based on these trackers, that he was cheating on her. He wasn't, but she started claiming that he was. And you know how? Because she had drawn out for the judge the map of leaving the house, going to work, maybe at noon, shows going to lunch somewhere, and then coming home. But on the tracker, if he went anywhere that wasn't on this routine, she was claiming that he was going to see someone else. What am I saying? I'm saying that your vindictive wife may have a tracking system on your car. Don't be surprised. So, all of this, I'm going to wrap up this way. If you're going through something like this, life's miserable for you right now. And with all that is in you, you have to keep it together. Or you're going to lose everything, maybe even your kids. You cannot become a reactionary person where you just react to her. Forget that. You're going to have to lead your life and lead it well and not just react to the crazy stuff that she's doing. If she's trying to get you angry, ignore her. If she's trying to call you and call you and call you because probably she's trying to set you up, don't answer. If anything legally needs to be done, make sure a legal person is there. You keep it together. Let other people see you keeping it together. Don't go off and say something stupid or do something stupid. For the sake of the kids, you keep it together because your kids need you too. All right, this is a whole different direction. This is what happens sometimes with a vindictive wife. We've seen it over and over. So we talked about it. Now, what are the comments going to be like from some of you? I'm anxious to see them. And if you've been through this, then tell us a little bit of your story too. As always, I appreciate your responses. This is Jim Cunningham again with Faith Influencer.